Part 2, continuation of Chapter 6, Creating Your Dream Team. Partners and staff. As your enterprise gathers momentum, the next person you'll likely to seek out is a partner, a co-parent for your venture. This should be an individual whose skills, talents, and temperament complement your own and fill critical gaps in your own range of strengths. After all, you don't want another you. You want someone you're not in as many areas as possible. Mark McCormick, writing in 110% Solution, pointed out that the individuals perform beyond their normal capacities when they are teamed with a partner who is better than they are. In sports competition, we quite often see a tennis player or a golfer stretch their potential to keep pace with a higher-ranked player. McCormick believed that choosing a superior partner is an instinct we have in childhood. The smaller playground team captain automatically chooses the biggest kid for his team. As we grow up, however, we become aware that our own performance is being judged and compared against others. Self-interest makes us seek weaker partners who make us look stronger by comparison. McCormick wrote, rather than the big kid who can help elevate our performance, as if to reinforce such thinking, conventional wisdom dictates that you find a partner that won't show you up or even make you look like a fool. Author's note. Since I wrote this about 7 or 8 years ago, it has become even more obvious to me that most businesses that are partnerships, and even with employees, pick people that they feel more comfortable with. And even as they struggle to put their boards together, they'll pick people, again, that they feel comfortable with, instead of picking people that make them uncomfortable. A thing in recent years, actually in recent months, that we've added to our weekly report is you have to do something and register it and memorialize it in your report to me weekly for the year that you're mentored free. What did I do that was scary? What scary stuff did I get involved in? And part of that is picking people that are not like you. End of author's note. Just as important to a dynamic, successful partnership is the personal chemistry between you and your partner or partners. In sizing up a potential partner, you are essentially considering and ultimately proposing marriage, a business marriage. You go through a period of courtship as you get acquainted with one another's business style, goals, and operating philosophies. If either of you already have employees, even got in-laws to fret about your best interests and theirs. But what if you're friends? Can you be in business partners without destroying your friendship? Their answer is emphatic. Yes. The fact is that the 2 or 3 of you will be spending so much time together that you're going to have to be friends, or you will certainly become enemies. My partners and I did many things together. Our respective families became entwined, and that is developed a sizable rooting section cheering on our success. The experience convinced me if you can be friends, you can be business partners. Beyond partners, hiring key associates is not for the timid. It takes guts to do it right. The temptation for a lot of entrepreneurs is to hire individuals who can be controlled so that their own pride or of authorship can be sustained. That's insane. Why would they bring in some doofus with less imagination, less initiative, and a dimmer vision, and think for a minute he'd help them propel their vision forward? Instead of adding powerful engines to their venture, the entrepreneurs are only adding ballast. One of the most obvious qualifications is experience. Read the resumes and read between the lines. Has this guy spent his career as an executive clerk for some top corporation that read terrific on his resume, or has he done deals? Can you see from a couple of sheets of paper that here's a corporate squad leader who has wrestled through the hell of negotiations and actually won? Think of your staff as an elite fighting team, and to be elite, they must have fought. Author's note. A good section of the seminar, several slides, is about these kinds of elite teams that you build. And I have several slides that show SEAL team in their training for that very reason. End of author's note. There are other considerations as well. I seek out potential associates and partners with enormous talent, who have strengths I do not, whose energy and vision match my own, and who nurture enormous egos. In short, I'm looking for people who want my job, but good help is hard to find, and bad help is abundant. I also hire people more on attitude than credentials. You can't browbeat them into enthusiasm. You can't pump them up if they were born deflated and have never been pumped up. They have to bring a good, solid, can-do attitude with them so you can harness it to help pull your dream. Hire people with an appetite for adventure too, because that's what they're about to have if they sign up to join your high wire quest for super success. When you begin looking for associates and staff personnel, you talk to a lot of qualified, certified people who prefer the security and the predictability of a status quo. They value their safety and security and lead neatly patterned lives. And they're boring as hell. In my mind, they're already dead, lying around waiting for the undertaker. But for every 15 to 20 of these losers, you discover one man, woman, one uncut jewel who salivates at the prospect of helping you explore and conquer new territory. You're the chance they've been waiting for, and you can bet they'll forsake everything for a chance to join your adventure. Another key factor to be considered is bringing in associates is personality. Like the weather, we can't change personality, but we can talk about it. Growing an idea into a marketable company requires enormous mental and physical energy and a focused commitment of personal time and resources that you cannot allow to be sidetracked by conflicting personalities. Your key personnel simply must have the interpersonal chemistry to get along. If not, their ego and personal agendas will divert the energies you need of them toward widening the chasm between them, and your dream team will give you nightmares. At the same time, beware of staffing your organization with people just because you like them or they get along with one another. You're not putting together a social club and a team of dim bulbs. No matter how compatible and congenial, will never accomplish anything. I want to hire people who can surprise me. Nothing pleases a high performer more than an employee or partner to have an idea first. Remember, the high performer values the idea, the inspiration, the solution far more than the pride of authorship. Personally, I'm delighted whenever one of my partners surprises me with a spark of genius. It confirms that what a perceptive guy I was to bring him or her onto the team. And it tells me I'm getting more than my money's worth. By the way, I use the term partners because all of my staff have equity of some sort. Finally, I look for commitment. I don't mean 9 to 5. My people must be willing to work nights, weekends, holidays, or whenever necessary during critical periods of growth. They must be instantly available at home, on the golf course, or in the airport, any airport in the world. They need to fly to New York City today. They need to revise the proposal tonight, hammer out the deal tomorrow morning, and meet me in Houston tomorrow night. I don't want to hear about junior softball game or a home full of company or any other personal bullshit. I want to hear, see you tomorrow night. When I'm building a dream team, I give potential partners what I call the doofus test. I put them in a conflict of interest bind or time constriction, which requires them to make a decision and take action. I schedule meetings on early Sunday morning or Saturday nights, find out when they have birthdays or anniversaries so I can set up meetings that screw up party plans. Okay, I'm a son of a bitch, but the doofus test gives me 2 essential pieces of information about people. First, how they react under emotional pressure, and second, how committed they are to me and my agenda. Sure, it's fine if they have promised to take their kid to the ball game and can't change their plans, but they can't work for Dan Pena. Otherwise, down the line, they might have that birth of their first child take precedence over all us making millions of dollars. Having talked in abstracts about personalities and commitment, it's time you've heard about two brothers who, years after the fact, still personify total commitment in my mind. In August 1994, I was holding a board meeting of my holding company, Great Western Development Corporation, at Guthrie Castle, Scotland. The meeting was set to begin on August 17th. It was expected to be a 2 or 3 day meeting. One of the participants, a young man in his late 20s, we'll call him John. I had brought him on the team mostly on the recommendation of his older brother Adam, who already worked with me. Neither of them was 30 years old. Unknown to me, John confided to one of my assistants that he was a little anxious about a 2 or 3 day meeting in Scotland because he was getting married on the 20th of August. He never mentioned it to me, not a word. He and Adam flew to Scotland and gave a great presentation, and still no one told me of the imminent wedding. John's desire for success enabled him to risk getting home the day his wedding, and he never wavered. He never asked what if. Instead, he committed, knowing he might be racing from the airport to the wedding aisle, dressing in the car, and missing all the social rituals that precede any formal wedding. Not a very auspicious beginning for a marriage, he surely must have thought. As it turned out, John arrived a full 24 hours before the presentation. No problem, right? But let me ask you, what would you have done? Would you have demanded such commitment, and would you have given such commitment? Had I known, I would not have excused John from the meeting. I would have left the choice up to him, as indeed it was anyway. The mark of a high performer is that he both demands and delivers that commitment to the business. I never asked any of my team to do something I haven't done. In fact, I still do whatever it takes, no matter what. And let's talk about the older brother, Adam. I was holding a Quantum Leap seminar in May 1995 in Los Angeles and was expecting about 800 attendees. I had met him at a previous Jim Newman Pace seminar, and he became a member of my team in late 1994. In fact, nowadays, I find most of my future business partners during my own seminars. I asked the two brothers to be there, since we could use any spare time to talk business. What I didn't know was that Adam's wife was expecting their second child the same week. Adam didn't hesitate, never mentioned the impending baby. He arrived for the seminar and stayed through the weekend, helping with the seminar and discussing the business issues. Again, what does conventional wisdom say? And what would most people have done? But the larger question is, what do these two brothers possess that generates such a high level of commitment? How are they different? Both had 12 years of Catholic school education, played college soccer at Texas Christian University, joined a fraternity, graduated and married. Adam with an MBA, although I've never held it against him. Then they both left promising positions with large corporations and took enormous pay reductions to join my team. I gave them each equity in one of my companies at a time when the company was a little more than a dream of mine, with the growing potential to be worth tens of millions of dollars over the next few years. We'll talk later about giving equity to achieve your quantum growth. Once before in my career, I had two partners who were as close to the ideal as I can ever hope for. They shared my fervor and success and were driven by their own dreams to commit their own lives to Great Western. In fact, one arguably gave his life in pursuit of quantum growth. Mark Harrison was a lawyer who specialized in oil and gas and corporate law. I met Mark while I was still at JPK Industries, and he was handling our legal affairs for a nationally known law firm. He was a young, energetic partner. Because of his brilliance, I sought to cultivate him initially as a mole and ultimately as a partner. Mark started out with Great Western Development in 1983 on a part-time basis, and I gave him a verbal deal for 1 year, and his law firm gave him a year to decide whether he wanted to cast his lot with Dan Pena and GWDC. Mark became my chief operating officer of Great Western and was given 10% ownership in the company. By virtue of his legal background, He had the skills to visualize and nitpick every aspect of any issue, every phrase in a contract. I never once heard him say, I didn't cover that. I have to get back to you. When we came to London, guns blazing for Great Western, Mark's equity had paid off handsomely. And that August day, we went public. At the precious point in time, the three of us, Mark, Charlie, and I, were invincible. We were like Wyatt, Virgil, Earp, and Doc Holliday at the OK Corral, just like the movies where they never ran out of bullets and take no prisoners. We acted day after day as if we had no limits to our abilities. In the coming years, differences of management style and opinion would remove Mark from operational authority of Great Western, and in 1991 he was terminated with a seven-figure goodbye handshake by me. I met Charlie Soliday when he was part of an acquisition team we formed in the late 70s, and that he was a partner of Coopers & Lybrand in Fort Worth office. He was an audit partner. He knew healthcare best, but had good base in oil and gas. I was immediately impressed by Charlie's highly defined sense of ethics. He knew right from wrong and acted accordingly in a business world which normally operates on situational ethics. Charlie was a refreshing change of pace. I eventually weaned him away from the big company comfort of his firm, took away his safety net, made him a chief financial officer and a born-again businessman. He was a natural workaholic, and as one energy company CEO put it, he wore his clothes out from the inside. Charlie was fine, total competent CFO, but more important to me was the fact that he was a dreamer, one who could use his talents and technical skills to make his dreams become realities. He was also a great people person and the best numbers man I ever saw. But his value to me at GW lay in his wisdom. I sought his counsel. I trusted his judgment and his loyalty. I knew without a doubt in the heat of the corporate battle, Charlie would follow me, follow my lead, and cover my back no matter what. I knew if I went into a corporate gunfight, he wouldn't leave me to suffer, but put me out of my misery, grab the flag, and run. Like Mark, Charlie was in for equity, 10% ownership, but for the first 5 months, I couldn't even pay him. He and his family moved to Los Angeles and lived in a Holiday Inn, and then rented a small house in case he ever got home at all. So many times we would analyze, evaluate, and plan our strategies far into the night. Then he would sleep at my place, sharing a couch with my two Great Danes, fly off into the early morning to another meeting across the continent and see his family whenever he could. From the time we decided to take GW public in March 1984, through two major acquisitions and several smaller ones, by the end of 1986, Charlie and Mark and I blazed like a comet across the financial skies. The second acquisition was of the U.S. subsidiary of a foreign multi-billion-dollar natural resource company and involved coal mines and gas and oil properties across the country. It was a long, tough negotiation. I'll get into that later, but by the time the deal was closed in December 1986, we were all exhausted. Our ship had come in, and it was loaded with money for all three of us, jackpot. All the dreams, the work, the pressure, and doing without a normal life with family, friends, and sleep had paid off. My dream team had come through for me. We were wealthy beyond dreams of most mortals. Invincible. I went home to Guthrie Castle, my own Camelot, to heal wounds and savor our victory. We were, as the Roman legions, invictus. We were not conquered. The next month, Charlie died of a heart attack at 40, just inside the threshold of his greatest super success. It was over. John Lennon said, "Life is what happens when you're making plans." Dan Pena says, "Man plans, God laughs." My life was changed forever. It took almost 3 years to recover from an acquisition 8 to 10 times our size and Charlie's death. No matter who you recruit for your dream team and how gifted and committed they are, they're going to need leadership. Even more to the point, they're going to want leadership, and you're the leader. It's no wonder reports say that almost 70% of the Fortune 500 CEOs have military backgrounds. The toughest thing about being a leader is that you're always alone in the lead position. Leadership is a towering peak with standing room for one. Sure, you can turn and get advice from this or that team member, but there's only one captain, one driver, one pilot in the cockpit. You can save your company from mistakes the others may make, but the others can't save the company from you. The guy who said, "It's lonely at the top," had surely been there. I often tell my business partners they must learn to be alone without being lonely. You're only a leader if you have followers. You can buy quasi-loyalty with money, and we'll talk about compensation shortly, but you can't make people follow you. They have to want to. Another misconception about leadership is that too many entrepreneurs think of leadership as a static condition. They sit in a position of leadership and assume that by definition they're leading. Any CEO who is not moving his or her company forward is not leading. The word leadership implies action. Leading is convincing others to move, to follow you as you proceed forward in a predetermined direction. If you're not moving, or if you seem to be moving erratically as you've lost your way, your associates and employees immediately perceive that they've lost their leadership and begin to lead themselves in whatever direction they like. And I can assure you it won't be the right direction. World history has proven time after time people much prefer to follow a madman with a clearly defined purpose than a nice guy with no apparent goals. And high-performance people are often perceived as madmen. Conventional business people consider them to be loose cannons, eccentrics, even buffoons. Sometimes the most loyal employees, stretched on the bone-breaking rack of demands beyond all known capacities, are exasperated by working for a high performer. But they don't quit. Great entrepreneurial madmen include Branson, Ted Turner, Donald Trump, Rupert Murdoch. Howard Hughes was a madman long before he went crazy. Author's note. More recently, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs were also considered madmen. And right now, as I read this, Donald Trump is at the Republican convention, and he will be inaugurated as the nominee to run for president in the next day or two. End of author's note. One of the most demanding high performers was Tom Edison. In 1884, he hired a young Croatian engineer named Nikola Tesla to work in his laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey. Edison was convinced that direct electric current, DC, was the way to light the world. Tesla believed that alternating current, AC, would be more practical. Already a world-famous inventor and supremely self-confident, Edison had little patience with employees and disagreed with him and fired Tesla. In 1889, Tesla patented AC power system and sold it to George Westinghouse, who built an empire generating AC electricity. As you work with your dream team toward achieving your super success, it's fine to be regarded as a little mad by the world beyond. Your perceived madness in the minds of conventional thinkers is sure sign that you're on the right track. I'd be disappointed if some investment bankers I know didn't shake their heads when they talked about Dan Pena. I relish my reputation, but remember, Edison, give your employees the latitude they need to be creative on your behalf. Exponential creativity and imagination by your people will accelerate your achievements of exponential and quantum growth. In fact, you can't achieve it without it. One of the great lessons I learned from Jim Newman was to keep my eyes focused on the macro picture and leave the micro management to my staff. The dream team you assemble has to be capable of day-to-day micromanagement so that you can press ahead with your job, your responsibilities as both leader and player on your own team. Don't bring me a problem so we can solve it. Solve it yourself and bring me the latter. Currently, I've developed and refined this idea, especially in the weekly reports that they give me when they have a problem or a challenge that they list at the end of their rather lengthy reports. I say I want 3 alternatives with a problem. If you can't give me 3 alternatives, then don't give it to me. And they have to pick the best alternative in their mind, and then I judge if it is the best alternative when I get back to them with my comments. End of author's note. As the CEO or president of your company, your job is not to design a better product or reduce operating costs or review sales figures. You have engineers, cost accountants, and marketing executives to handle those tasks. Your greatest danger is getting bogged down in the office and mired by minutia. You have 3 jobs. They're all outside the office. The first one is kissing frogs. You got to kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince. I tell my audiences, you do not only have to kiss those frogs, you got to love to do it. And just love those little pus-filled warts on those frogs' faces. Okay, I know only toads have warts, but it's my story. Because one day, one of those little frogs at a bank, at a brokerage firm, in a state legislature is going to be able to help you, to croak you a good word, to give you a nod, to become a prince in need, to make you millions. So get out there, smile, and start kissing frogs. Your second job as senior executive is to look for expansion opportunities. I'm talking about deals or schemes, as they say in the UK. That's how you make the big money, equity on deals. And you won't find hot deals in your own shop. So get out into the market, go to trade shows, overhear conversations, talk to your moles, keep your ear to the earth of the financial world. And remember, unless you're Kobe Bryant or Madonna, you won't get rich from income. You become wealthy from equity in a string of transactions. Pay attention to the industry. Watching business is like expanding by a river. Every time you look, the water is different. Keep watching. Check out rumors and ask questions. If you run a mid-sized business right now, chances are good there's another mid-sized business you could buy tomorrow with OPM, other people's money, and make a quantum leap. Quantum leaps are repeatable, three-peatable, and more. Your third job is finding other people's money, OPM. In Chapter 9, I will talk about raising capital, finding the OPM you need to seize opportunities and take decisive action. My God, there are so many sources of capital out there, it should be embarrassing for anyone to say we don't have the money right now. As you'll find out, it's only because you haven't looked. Some of the plumpest, tastiest frogs you'll ever lay a lip on are sitting in financial institutions all over the country, all over the world for that matter, just waiting to lend you money and make themselves look good to their bosses. Help them out. As I write this, the economy is heading towards a recession. The banking industry is more cautious than has been in many years. Institutions from AIG to Washington Mutual have disappeared from the banking landscape. But regardless of the economy, whether it is in the clouds or the toilet, bankers make their money lending money. A nervous frog is still a frog. So while you're out looking for frogs, deals, and money, who's running your show? Well, other people are. Your carefully hand-picked dream team, and hopefully with a free hand from you and with their owning a part of it themselves. More on that later. I discovered long ago that less control, not more control, is the key to effective management. You hire people you trust, empower, and then trust them to perform. If you can't trust them, find people you can. It's not the end of the world if you brought someone in, gave him 5 or 10%, and then had to get rid of them. But then you say, now he has a piece of my dream. Calm down. You can draw up a buy-sell agreement, and you have a number of ways to get around the potential danger. Don't worry about that. Just do it. Anyway, being a minority shareholder in the U.S. or anywhere else doesn't mean much. All minority shareholders can do is see the books and get a share of any dividend paid. Of course, if you don't issue a dividend, he gets nothing. Rules for keeping a good staff and keeping them happy. I have 4 rules for dealing with staff in my organization. 1, pay your people good money and they'll do it, and they'll do anything. They'll arrive early, work late, come in Saturdays and Sundays, whatever it takes to get the job done because they are getting good money and they know it. You start by paying them the best salaries in the market. Employees continuously compare their salaries with friends at other companies, and you want your employees to win every time. Give Christmas bonuses, new account bonuses, birthday bonuses, whatever you can to assure your people they've got a sweet job worth working hard to keep. Some bosses periodically hand out unexpected appreciation bonuses. Strolling from the desk to desk with checks, I personally tie compensation to deals and profitability. Plus, you'll recall all my people have are equity partners. At Great Western, my people knew that paychecks were tied to income, so they continuously thought of ways to make money. They all worked hard, and the enthusiasm was incredible. I previously referred to an extraordinary Brit named Peter Sage. Peter was a spectacular achiever long before we met, owning 4 companies by the time he was 20. Today he's a globally active entrepreneur, a highly sought motivational speaker, and a high-end real estate investor. A few years ago, he decided to reward his staff of 22 and his mother with a Christmas party. Fair enough. Oh, by the way, the party was to be held in a 7-star Bella or Arab, the most elegant, most expensive hotel in Dubai. For 4 breathtaking days, Peter's mom and everyone on his companies, from receptionist, sales staff, bookkeepers, lived in the extravagance of a super rich, opulent 2-level suites, private butler, 42-inch plasma TVs, panoramas of the Arabian Gulf. Uncommon loyalty was loyalty uncommonly rewarded. Unfortunately, money is used in some companies as a substitute for respect. It amazes me how much crap employees will take for the right amount of money. From the mail clerk to the executive vice president, EVP, I know a guy who runs a company of about 35 employees. He calls his women sluts and his men dickheads, even in front of clients. He abuses and yells at them continuously, blames them for his screw-ups, and buries them with more last-minute work with no instruction and tighter deadlines than they could possibly handle. During one crisis with his office in chaos, he took off with his pals and went boating. But no one quits. Ask them why. Well, he pays us good money. I'd quit, but nobody in town would pay me what he does. For the money I get, he can call me whatever he wants. Of course, I'm not advocating that kind of treatment for any employee. In fact, I did just the opposite. I paid them well and treated them with respect. But the point is that employees place 3 things at the top of the priority list: money, money, money. Above pleasant working conditions, above packages, above health club memberships. Employees don't want to be your extended family, even in the 21st century. They want to get paid as much as they can haul down the elevator in a wheelbarrow. And when you add respect and recognition, the results are tremendous. Then you've got their loyalty forever. As Napoleon Hill said in his classic Think and Grow Rich, after some 20 years of interviewing 500 richest men in the world, the financial motive must prevail. Above all, it was true 80, 90 years ago, and it's true now. Authors note the financial model still prevails. But back to Peter Sage. Peter Sage is still an entrepreneur, but he has now extended his worldwide speaking and motivational talks, and he's a mini-me, and he runs around the world. I am proud to say that I had something to do with his training. End of author's note. Number 2, never reprimand. This is a pretty element stuff, but most employers forget it in the heat of crisis. The cliche, criticize in private, praise in public, but occasionally well-placed rage notwithstanding, I try not to even criticize my people in private. Sure, Dan, I can hear them now. Instead, after I've cooled down enough so I won't rip their heads off, I invite them in, close the door, and in the gentlest fatherly voice, I ask them questions about their mistake that almost cost me my castle. What was your reasoning behind taking this action? What happened as a result of this action that was not in our best interest? Or what action would you take next time, given the same circumstances? The next time is the operative phrase. Next time tells them you respect their basic judgment and intelligence enough that there will be a next time. Since my company doesn't normally employ absolute morons, I make the reasonable assumption that A, this person has redeemable qualities that make him or her worthy of continued life and employment, and B, he or she is intelligent enough to learn from the fiasco they've just caused by screwing up royally. But more importantly, if employees know they'll be reprimanded for mistakes and especially humiliated, they'll never venture out of where they can make mistakes. They will never get out of their own box. They will never expand their comfort zone. Bill Gates pays bonuses for making mistakes. It's true. Gates does this to encourage creativity and imagination. He knows good people will make honest mistakes, and he doesn't want them to become apprehensive and timid about making decisions. Besides, I found that one of the biggest reasons for employee mistakes is lack of information. Employees don't make decisions the same way as the CEO because they don't have the same information. The days that the closed executive office doors are past. Corporate paternalism is dead, killed by email and ease of information flow up and down the hierarchy. We no longer judge the discretion of an executive, even the CFO, by how much information he or she can keep from the rest of the company. Today, we live and work in an information age with staff who has the sophistication to receive and process information about their company and act intelligently based on the input. The smart CEO uses the ability to decontrol his organization to let responsibility trickle down to competent people eager to accept that responsibility. 3, train one or more employees for your job or your jobs, which are to kiss frogs, find deals, and raise capital. You want to train others to do what you do, so together you can get to more frogs, ferret out more potential deals, and get in from more lenders. It is essential that you bring your people into the sense of ownership by doing what a CEO or owner is doing. They'll work harder, longer, and with more commitment when you allow them to help steer the future and not just its present. 4, never make decisions for your employees. Once you give them the information they need, allow them to make their own decisions. At the same time, give them the responsibility and the authority to implement their own actions. Give them chances to make mistakes from which they can learn. Your employees must grow as your company grows. It is far preferable to have the same number of enthusiastic, capable employees handling more jobs than it is to hire, say, 7 more people to handle 7 new tasks. How you present new challenges will determine how quickly they learn. You can tell them how to do the job and they'll forget. You can show them how to do it and they may still forget. But if you involve them in the process, they'll understand, remember, and grow. One interesting example of how employees grow to fulfill the expectations you have of them is in spending limits. When I increased spending authority in the mid-level managers, spending actually decreased. To begin to consider every expenditure as a personal one and monitor costs more closely and more conscientiously than ever. And when I removed the limits totally, the expenses went down even more. Along those same lines, I've found from my own experience that you want every employee to think of themselves as an independent contractor. Virtually every job can be businessed or turned into a business run by an employee. A floor supervisor at the Ritz-Carlton can easily think of himself or herself as the CEO of the 4th floor. With this kind of attitude, capable people work smarter and with more pride. Look at the Saturn story. Every auto worker at Saturn plant thinks like a CEO of some area of subassembly. There is no better example of empowerment to work in an American industry. When it's time to say goodbye, regardless of the health and vibrancy of the relationship with a partner or associate, conditions, circumstances, and requirements change. Personalities change, and although you and your partners or senior executives may stay together for a lifetime, the time may come when you need to get rid of somebody, even someone you've been through hell with. Incident or a pattern of behavior confirms that it's a company's best interest to terminate someone who helped accelerate your super success. Getting rid of people is one of the hardest jobs for a senior manager or executive. Call it early retirement, work furlough, downsizing, or right-sizing. It's no fun for anybody. And don't think it's any easier just because you don't like someone personally. If you're good technically, if they're super competent, if they can work magic with numbers or negotiations, they're going to be hard to replace. On the other hand, don't delay the inevitable. Harvey Mackey was right in Swim with the Sharks when he said, it isn't the people you fire that make your life miserable, it's the people you don't. The individual who needs to be fired is almost begging to be fired, but is still around, often performs counterproductively just to see how much you'll take. However unpleasant the act of firing may be, as long as you put it off, you expend energy in the continuous test of wills. An about to be fired employee is like a corpse lying in the hallway. Somehow, everyone in the office knows when their associates has become superfluous and tiptoes around the cadaver. And the stronger the body lies there for apparently no reason, taking calls and drinking coffee, the greater the impact of the office morale. Get rid of such a person before it is obvious, even to the temps you need to, but haven't. But however you approach terminations, remember this rule. When you get rid of somebody, never give them a hook to get back into your organization. Make a clean, definable, and irrevocable break. Separations at the management level can be very expensive for a company, especially where employment agreements are involved. But regardless of cost, sever the relationships surgically and completely. Don't try to save money by offering such hooks as stock options to the person you're terminating. Any money you think you're saving will be peanuts compared to the expenses and aggravation which inevitably incur later on. Creating your dream team, then, is the process of involving others in your adventure to join with you in scaling the heights of super success. You won't need all of them all the way up, but you'll need some of them clear to the top. Choose them carefully. Treat them well. Give them the chance to make mistakes. Work their butts off. Make it worth their while. And if the sad day comes, let them go swiftly and finally.